It's hard to wrap up management of the environment in 3 questions, but there are 3 questions you can ask yourself regarding your construction site that will help you manage it better. The first one is what are the environmental issues that could affect this site in terms of activities? What is the likely harm caused by these activities on the environment? And how can you manage these activities better to minimise the impact? These 3 questions form the basis of an environmental management plan and an aspects and impacts register. Once the documentation is in place and you've implemented the control measures effectively, your organisation can achieve benefits of better energy efficiency, improved cost savings from less material wastage and waste costs, and maintaining legal compliance. The 5 key environmental issues that affect us globally today and will affect each of your construction sites is resource depletion, and we're talking about use of virgin materials such as aggregates or timber. Climate change, without going into all the effects of global warming, etc. Really at site level we're talking about usage of energy and fuel on site and the knock-on effects that can have on the environment, such as ozone depletion. Pollution of land, air and water. Loss of biodiversity, and that means things like deforestation and the effects that construction work can have on trees, hedgerows and wildlife. And lastly, statutory nuisance, and we're talking about dust, noise and vibration issues coming from activities and the effects that can have on local residents. You'll need to determine these issues on your site which specifically affect your site and your activities, and how you're going to manage them going forwards. You'll need to affect the potential harm to the environment from your activities. This will include things like pollution, so spillages into local watercourses, ground or air, and when we talk about air, we're talking about dust and fumes into the air. Disruption of wildlife, so this could be how the activities affect things like badgers, bats, nesting birds. Avoiding the spread of invasive weeds, things like Japanese knotweed, Himalayan balsam or giant hogweed, and making sure that whether it's inadvertent or intended, that they are prevented from spreading. Killing of trees and hedgerows and the potential knock-on effects to the local wildlife. Mismanagement of waste can often lead to contamination of ground or unapproved waste contractors, if you've appointed those, fly tipping of waste. And lastly, the nuisance effects, dust, noise and vibration, and how this will affect the local residents. If your company implements sustainable construction methods through good site management, it will encourage better resource efficiency, reduced wastage and disposal costs. Sustainable construction can be achieved by reducing waste to landfill, and this means better storage of materials. So if you're storing plasterboard on site, for example, outside, making sure it's covered over to avoid rainwater damage. Reducing CO2 emissions from plant and vehicles, and this means not leaving engines running when it's not necessary, but also choosing the right plant and vehicles in the first place that have got energy efficient engines. More responsible material resourcing, so using managed forestry timber, for example. Prevention of pollution, and this relates to refueling on site or storage of chemicals or drums on site, making sure they're stored on drip trays, having fuel tanks that are double bunded, and using drip trays or plant nappies when refueling. Also having spill kits available for when you do have any small spillages to deal with it and avoid contaminating the ground. Also management of water on site. This could apply to your cabins, so in the toilets, for example, having push top taps that reduce the amount of water usage, but also looking at your activities on site that use water and trying to reuse the water as much as possible. In advance of starting on site, in other words at pre-construction phase, there should be biodiversity surveys carried out. This should identify any protected species on site and will recommend any measures to reduce the effect on any wildlife. But also it can identify any invasive species on site and would also identify any measures required to deal with these weeds on site, for example Japanese knotweed. Other surveys required at that stage of construction would be archaeological surveys and also looking at whether there's listed building consent required. So archaeological surveys will identify if there's any potential artifacts or treasure buried in the ground. And if you do come across any artifacts during any excavation work or any treasure, you mustn't keep that for yourselves. It does need to be reported to the relevant organisation or body for them to deal with. There are many benefits for your organisation implementing sustainable construction methods. These include a reduced environmental impact, efficiency improvements and cost savings in terms of fuel, materials, waste and energy savings. These will hopefully reduce your costs and increase profits and also improve performance of your company. This will lead to maintaining better legal compliance, hopefully an enhanced reputation, and ultimately allow you to win more work. All the relevant documentation for environmental management is available on BSG Online. Documents such as an environmental management plan, an aspects and impacts register, and there are a list of several information sheets relating to wildlife management, invasive species and other environmental topics.